Good afternoon and welcome to today's statewide webinar hosted by SpedTex and Partners Resource Network. My name is Sarah Untersee and I am part of the SpedTex team. The topic for today's webinar is what families need to know about the post-school outcome survey. A few housekeeping items before we get started today. If you need technical assistance during today's webinar, we do have Brian Wilson with us today from Region 10 to provide that support. He is the black and white box that you might see on your Zoom screen, and you can send him a chat message if you need any help. Today's webinar is being recorded and it will be made available on the SpedTex website. It usually takes about a week in order for that to be posted, but we will drop our website link in the chat so that you are able to access that once it becomes available. Today's presentation slides are in both English and Spanish, and the same presentation will be used during both versions of the webinar. Although time does not allow for live questions and answers today, you are welcome to put any questions that you may have in the Q&A box, and we will pass those along to our presenters following the webinar. Is the Special Education Information Center for Texas. We are a collaborative project between Region 10 Education Service Center and the Texas Education Agency. We help parents understand their rights and responsibilities under IDEA and facilitate collaboration when there are concerns between the parent and the school district. We also serve as a resource for educators. We offer support via phone, email, or live chat for families and professionals, webinars, and other resources. Our contact information is on the screen. I'm now going to turn it over to Stephanie McLaughlin to share some additional information about Partners Resource Network.
Hello, my name is Stephanie McLaughlin. I am the Training and Evaluation Specialist for Partners Resource Network. Partners Resource Network is the nonprofit agency that operates the Texas statewide network of parent training and information centers, or PTIs. PTIs are funded through the Department of Education Office of Special Education Programs. There are 4 PTI projects across Texas. They are known as PACT, PATH, PIN, and TEAM. Our mission is to empower and support Texas families and individuals impacted by disabilities or special healthcare needs. And we do this through a network of highly skilled, regionally located coordinators who are knowledgeable in local policies, services, and resources, as well as state and national guidelines. All of our resources are provided in both English and Spanish, and we provide training, information, and one-on-one assistance at no cost to Texas families and youth. We serve parents of children and youth with disabilities from birth to age 26, as well as youth self-advocates between the ages of 14 and 26. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Stephanie. We are excited to welcome our presenter, Elizabeth Danner. Elizabeth is the State Transition Coordinator with the Texas Education Agency, or TEA. She coordinates statewide technical assistance to promote effective transition planning from early to exit. Planning for adult life starts early in childhood and continues through the exit from public schools. For students receiving special education services, this planning includes required elements to be considered by the Admission, Review, and Dismissal, or ARD committee, by age 14. Elizabeth has worked in public education for over 20 years in roles that include paraprofessional, teacher, professional development specialist, and consultant. Her professional focus continues to be connecting people with disabilities to careers, continued learning, and community beyond high school. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and thanks to everyone who is joining the webinar today or watching the recorded version. So I'm wondering how many of us feel tense when we get a phone call or a text asking us to complete a survey. Our time is valuable, and there are so many distractions in today's busy world. If your child was receiving special education services, you will probably receive an invitation to complete a post-school outcomes survey 1 year after they graduated or left school another way. Please don't hang up or click delete. Completing this survey will benefit students across Texas. I'll spend the next few minutes describing what you can expect and why this survey is so important. So I'll start by explaining why we have a post-school outcomes survey. All states must develop a state performance plan called SPP. The SPP sets targets for different measurements, which are referred to as indicators. The Texas Education Agency, or TEA, reports progress toward these targets to the Office of Special Education Programs each year. And you may know this federal office by its acronym OSEP. SPP Indicator 14 collects data about students who had an individualized education program, which you probably know as the IEP, at the time they left school. So they may have left by graduating, dropping out, or completing a high school equivalency, which is usually called a GED. This measurement is known by educators as SPPI 14. Through SPPI 14, we can learn what students are doing 1 year after leaving school. This is what's meant by post-school outcomes. What are students doing after they leave public school? This survey helps collect data for SPPI 14, and it allows us to measure the percentage of students who are continuing their education beyond high school, such as enrolling in college or a training program, and the percentage who are employed. TEA uses a survey to reach former students and their families. This is why we ask you to please don't hang up. We would like accurate data on students who had an IEP when they left public school, and this survey is the way we collect this data. So let's take a look at the timeline for the survey from when a student leaves school to when the data is available. For this example, we will use the 2022 cohort. These are students who left school during the 2021-22 school year. Today's webinar is being broadcast in May of 2024, so it won't be hard for live listeners to imagine going back in time to exactly 2 years ago, during the spring of 2022. Graduation ceremonies were being finalized, students were cleaning out their lockers and turning in their library books. School was ending, and for seniors, it would be the last time they walked those halls as a student. This was the class of 2022. Their cohort included all the high school students who left school that year, as we described earlier, like dropping out or earning a GED. Off they went into their summer and into their adult life. The next school year, in February of 2023, information about the 2022 cohort was submitted to TEA by public schools. For SPPI 14, this information included contact data for the post-school survey. Phone numbers, email, and mailing addresses for the students and their parents or guardians was submitted. Flash forward to the summer of 2023. The 2022 cohort had been adulting for 1 year. It was time for the survey to be conducted. To do this, TEA contracted with a company. During the summer of 2023, Gibson Consulting Group reached out to the 2022 cohort and asked about their first year of adult life after high school. They collected the survey results and submitted a report to TEA. The statewide report will be published to the TEA website very soon. The data required for SPPI 14 was already sent to OSEP. As you can see from this timeline, it takes a while from the time the cohort exits to the time we can see the results of the survey. Next, we'll take a look at the results of the summer 2023 survey that is based on the information from the student cohort of 2022 who had an IEP when they left school. When we look at the survey results from summer 2023, we are still talking about the 2022 cohort. Over 36,000 former students were contacted and just over 1/4 responded. Almost 80% of the survey responses came from parents or family members. This is a good time to mention that most of the student email addresses in the SPPI 14 database were issued by the district. That means they were the email accounts that students used while they were enrolled in school, but are not likely available for them to use after they graduate. Be sure to encourage your child to give their high school registrar an email address that they will use in adulthood. This way, they will be more likely to receive the invitation to complete the post-school outcomes survey, and they can also receive other notifications from the school about opportunities for former students. Of the 9,340 responses for the 2022 cohort, we can see the outcome data for employment or enrollment in continued learning. About 1/3 were enrolled in higher education and about 1/3 were employed. 11% of survey respondents were engaged in other learning, such as trade schools or other employment such as working fewer than 20 hours per week or paid less than minimum wage. What would happen to these percentages if more people responded to the survey? Is this an accurate picture of what's happening for students in Texas? The only way to know is to see an increase in the response rate. If there's one thing you take away from today's webinar, I hope it is the importance of completing the survey. Let me say that again. Please complete the post-school outcomes survey and encourage your child to complete the survey. This post-school outcomes survey is an opportunity for students or for their parent and or guardian to share their outcomes and opinions with their high school, their district, and with TEA. Statewide results, again, are reported to the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP, and district-level results are reported back to the school district. The information collected through the survey can be used to guide improvements to special education and transition services at the local level. The greater the number of former students who participate, the more reliable and useful the data will be, particularly at the district level. Next, I will talk to you about how you may be contacted and what happens to the information you or your child shares. So as I mentioned earlier, TEA contracts with a company, Gibson Consulting Group, to conduct the survey. This summer, Gibson will reach out to students who left school during the 2022-23 school year, or the 2023 cohort. Understandably, some people may be concerned about talking to a company rather than to staff from their former high school or from TEA. I'll review the Gibson contact information to help alleviate those concerns. The email used to invite former students to the survey is gibsonsurveys@qemailserver.com. The phone number used for voice calls is 512-580-6008. The number used for text messages is 833-495-3340. This number is not expected to change, but additional numbers may be added if there are issues with texting. So for today, we can safely assume that this number will be used for texting. You may also receive a postcard to your home address that will look similar to the one on the screen. There are a couple of things to notice about this postcard. In addition to the TEA logo, you can see a QR code. This code will be different on the postcard that you receive. And there's also space for a PIN, which is a personal identification number. Every student in the SPPI 14 database is assigned a PIN to be sure that duplicates are not counted twice. For example, if your child is away at college and completes the survey after receiving a text message from Gibson, and you complete the survey after receiving a phone call, both responses will be connected to the same PIN. You can confidently complete the survey without any concern about possible duplication in the data. Another thing you can do is visit www.txexit.com. When the survey is launched on June 3 this year, this website will allow former students or family members to complete the survey online. And I want to take a moment to say again how important it is for students to share their personal email address with their high school before they exit. By asking the school registrar to update their email address in the student information system, they will be able to receive important updates, including the invitation to complete the post-school outcomes survey. So, what happens to my information if I decide to complete the survey? The first thing to know about what it means to complete the post-school outcomes survey is that identifying information about the individual student or family is not included in the report. Survey results are reported as numbers and percentages. Names and other confidential information are not shared. Gibson Consulting maintains confidentiality of all personal data associated with the post-school outcomes survey. Another piece of good news is that once you or your child complete the survey, Gibson will no longer call, text, or email with an invitation to complete the survey. So you can think of completing the survey as adding yourself to the do not contact list. Earlier, we looked at the survey results for the 2022 cohort. This data is reviewed in great detail by TEA, education service centers, and schools. Districts with at least 5 completed surveys will receive a report with their local data. Videos are available on the Texas Sped Support website to support schools in reviewing their report and using the information to consider their practices. I can't say it enough. SPPI 14 contains some of the most valuable information for improving transition planning in public schools. When you get that phone call from Gibson or that text, please don't hang up or click delete. Thank you so much for joining me to learn more about the post-school outcomes survey for SPPI 14. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. To reach Gibson directly, you can email support@gibson.consult.com or call 512-580-6008. To reach TEA, you can email sped@tea.texas.gov, or you can use the contact information available on the SpedTex website. Remember, this survey is your chance to share your experience and to improve services for future students. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you to everyone for your time today. Right now, we're going to go back to Stephanie McLaughlin to share some additional information about Partners Resource Network.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Elizabeth, for that information. Announce it. All right. Just a reminder, our regional coordinators are available to help you understand and navigate the special education process. If you are not already connected to your regional coordinator, give us a call at the phone number listed on the screen, and we will get you connected to the regional coordinator in your area. For more information about Partners Resource Network and for our wealth of resources, you can check out our website at prntexas.org and like and follow us on social media as well. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Questions about special education? Contact us at SpedTex, your source for special education information. We are happy to help. Our contact information is on the screen. Create a MySpedTex account. With a MySpedTex account, families can receive customized reminders, volunteer to participate in focus groups, locate resources tailored to your needs, and access trainings.